Warning: the gel blaster toy shown in this video could be mistaken for a real firearm. Do not take gel blasters into public spaces or it will likely be treated as real by authorities. Gel blasters are classified as toys in Queensland regulations, however this may be different in your state or territory. Be sure to check your local laws before buying or ordering a gel blaster. Also, ensure you use adequate eye protection whenever using gel blasters. Stay safe, everyone.
So g'day boys and girls, welcome back into the studio for another gel blaster review. Gel blaster we're going to be looking at today is the LDT HK416D. So this one definitely has got a bit of attention recently because of its quality of parts and that sort of thing, which is definitely nice, and I do like the feel of it, but I'll get further onto that. First thing I'd like to mention straight up is this blaster was lent to me from CQ Blasters for the purpose of doing this video, so I'm not getting paid by them. I have to give this back. It's not mine after this video, but just full awareness there. I'll leave a link to their Facebook page in the description below if you're interested in getting one through them. So, not a lot to mention, so let's get straight into it. Now, the big thing about this one is it is quite expensive, but that's because the external build quality is by far the best I have seen in any blaster that's been released so far. Now, keep in mind, I haven't got my hands on an Alpha King AK at all, or a couple of other minor ones, and I have seen the pictures of the new LDT Scar that they're doing, which looks like it's going to be basically mostly metal and fairly heavy and whatnot, but we'll see how that goes. This one though, at the moment in my hands, it feels really good. The body is completely constructed of nylon except for this buffer tube, which is actually alloy, as well as these little clips at the back. And in the box you do get a flash hider, however for mine it's not on this one as a display model. And you also do get this fake red dot sight. So, without further ado, let's get into it and have a look at the business end as usual. Now, because it is a HK, they do have this quad rail design. Now, if you take this fake red dot off, this is actually a monolithic rail that goes all the way to the back of the blaster just here. However, the quad rail itself is pretty good. I do like the HK designs on the quad rails. In the end there, you can see a thread just there. Now, I believe that is a 14mm CCW thread, same as such as your J10, J11s, that sort of thing, which is good because it means that you can thread on like tracer units that you can get. Also things like some of the thread on hop-ups that go on. So yeah, now I'm unsure of the barrel in there, but from what I can tell and what I can see, I believe that is plastic. I will double check that before I post up this video. But you also have a couple of little sling attachment points just at the front there and there. Further along, like I mentioned, the entire front handguard is a nylon quad rail with some grips in here. It does look like there's a bolt just here which allows you to disconnect it, so it probably twists and slide off. Fairly straightforward. Onto the main receiver, you do have on the right hand side a whole bunch of markings just here, and also some symbols here for a fire select. Now, it's not an ambidextrous fire select, it's only on the left hand side of the blaster, but I'll get to that. You also have your dust cover and your mic ejection port in there, where if you pull that back, there's a little thing saying HK just there. I'll see if I can get that in the close-up. Not quite. Might be better to go this way. You can see the top of the gearbox just there. Push that back in. This dust cover is busted, so it keeps holding itself open. You do have a couple of little interesting markers there, and also on the left-hand side, such as the big HK brand name just there, which is going to be amusing. Also just up here on the top. Mostly amusing because when it comes to copyright, these sort of companies tend to be fairly pedantic about it, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try and start doing something about it. And then obviously your HK markings down here, as well as caliber markings, which isn't real because it's a blaster, but that's what it would be. You also have a fake bolt release button just there. Doesn't do anything because there's no bolt. Further along on the left hand side, you do have the actual fire select, so that would be safe, and when it's in safe, it just stops you from pulling the trigger back. That is semi-automatic, and that one is fully automatic. So yeah, so the receiver does look pretty good. It feels nice, feels solid. On the top just here, like I mentioned, you do get this fake red dot sight. It's just a piece of plastic lens with a little cutout in it. It can take a battery, and in this part here, and when you turn it on, it just reflects off that cutout. It's fairly basic, but I mean, it looks cool. I personally don't run them, but if you do run them, I can understand, and it's better than nothing, I suppose. It doesn't give you anything when you're looking down it, but still it is there. Your charging handle just there, which would normally open your dust cover. And then you have your pistol grip. Now, the pistol grip has some really good texturing on all sides of it. On the front here, you do have a guard there for your second finger. And it is quite thick going towards the bottom. It's not just one size the whole way. And I do like it. It feels really good to hold onto and grip onto. So it does feel good to grip on without gloves as well. So, normally I say gloves is a good idea because you do have the risk of your hand slipping as you're running and sweating. This case, no, I think you'd be fine without it. You probably want to get a foregrip or something because grabbing onto this constantly it's not painful or hurting at all. It's just uncomfortable, and after a while it's probably going to get annoying. So foregrip there would actually be quite nice. Further towards the back, just before the buffer tube, you do have a fake gas block system there. However, here, and same on the other side, I'll just move that around. Just there, you do have some sling attachment points if you want to run a sling. You do also have on the back your alloy buffer tube, like I just mentioned. Nice little war interest symbol just there. The stock is fairly straightforward. It is quite large with big, massive cheek riders, which is good, and also a rubberized pad on the back. Simply adjust by pulling that and moving it as you can see. Now this one has a bit of a strange nut on it. I think the nut keeps falling off, so it's a bit painful to deal with, but other than that, it is fine. And that is, in a nutshell, everything about this blaster. Now, I've already got a battery on this one connected and the magazine in, so I'll get straight into that. Something to note, I had a look and I cannot find a mag prime on this blaster whatsoever, so if you are putting in a fresh magazine that you haven't used before after filling it up, you are going to have to dry fire it a bit to actually feed that feed tube in the mag up. The magazine itself is a nylon magazine. It's in a very similar vein to the J10 ACR mags, such as it looks like it's a skin over the top of a body, and in order to fill it up, you open up the door on top, just there. Now, on top of that door are your mag terminals, so be very careful about that. Don't go reefing it, you might break those wires or something, and then your feed tube with a little stopper so it doesn't just fill out. And that's the magazine. It's fairly straightforward, like any M4 design. You simply push it up, give it a quick little tap just to make sure it's in, and you're good to go. As for the battery, it is contained within the buffer tube in the back underneath the stock, such as most M4s. Now I'll try and position this in such a way that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. This one here, I believe it's mostly because the bolt is a bit of a pain to deal with, but let's see if I can get it out. Yeah, so yeah. Now, the interesting thing about this blaster is that it does come with a mini Tamiya connector. It does not come with your standard black JST connector. It comes with these little ones here, so I'll just disconnect that. It comes with that connection there. That's your battery. That's your blaster connection. This is actually from a battery. Now, something I would like you to note is that for all the tests you're going to see, I'm using a Turnigy Nanotech Airsoft 11.1 volt battery. So please take that into account when you're looking at things like the fire rate and such later on in the accuracy testing in the chrono, because that is definitely going to have an influence on that. I'll just see if I can jam some of these wires back in and out of the way. This is the only thing that annoys me about this thing. Alright, so yeah, it does mean that the battery you get with it is going to be your only option unless you swap those connectors out for a more common connector style, or if you run a particular style of battery connection, change it for that style of connection, so then you can use your batteries that you have at home. So that's it. Basically, it doesn't have a whole lot to do. Like, there's not really a whole lot of operations involved on this. It's fairly straightforward. It does feel good when you shoulder it. Like, it feels solid. The magazine's a little bit swivelly, but it's not too bad. It's definitely better than most of them. You know, everything feels like it's fitting perfectly. So there is definitely good points for this thing on the way it feels, especially on the externals. Now, the internals, from my knowledge of this, are not necessarily anything to write home about. It's fairly straightforward with your standard plastic or nylon gears and a gearbox. Nothing too major there. However, from watching Lo Guido's video when he pulled one of these apart when he first got one, and I'll link that video as well in the description if you want to have a look at how to do that, it does look like the inner barrel that they give you is actually slightly bigger on the internal diameter than most of your standard like JM blasters. Now, the theory behind this that I'm definitely going to go with, which I think makes sense and is probably most likely true, is because these guys make the LDT War Interest extra heavy gels, I think that they've made it because they are generally a little bit bigger than your normal gels, and so that way the bigger internal diameter of the barrel allows for that. So again, all the accuracy testing and chrono testing you're going to see, I am utilizing those bigger LDT war interest gels. So take that into account. Overall, on its looks and on the way it feels, it's great. If you buy this, you're not going to be disappointed with the way it looks and feels. It doesn't feel like a toy. It actually feels quite nice. It's not real by any stretch. It doesn't feel real, but it doesn't feel as, you know, like your old original plastic Gen 8 M4s did. So what I'll do now, I'll set up the chrono, have a test through that, and then we'll head outside, do some accuracy testing. Righto, LDT heavy gels loaded up. Let's just speed up, make sure we're shooting. Righto, we're all loaded to go. Let's see what we get. We definitely seem to be sitting a fairly consistent average of around 250, which is pretty good. That'd be putting it on par roughly standard with an ACR that I have, which I'd be more than happy with out of the box, so that is nice. Not really too much variation either, which is what actually surprises me. Normally we get a couple which are really low or really high, but these seem to be pretty good. So I do like that quite a bit. Obviously rate of fire is going to be a bit excessive because of that 11 volt airsoft battery, but that's neither here nor there. Still not too bad, so yeah, not bad at all. Let's head outside. So the LDT HK416, definitely on the external components and whatnot, it looks and feels awesome. It even feels good to fire. I do think, yeah, it's obviously going to be a little bit less high fire rate and probably make a bit less noise than what it did just before because that's the bigger airsoft battery, but still feels good. So I've actually wanted one of these for a little while and I'm probably still going to end up buying one, and it'll probably be the only real M4 side blaster that I really use because I do like the look of it and the feel of it. I do have this one, however I haven't really used this one ever since I got it, so it's just one of those things. I do like this, so it's probably where I'm going to go with. If you do buy this, it's not going to do you wrong by any stretch. I would definitely recommend that if you do buy it, it's not a bad buy. It does also come with a HK branded mock-up plastic carry case, which is nice. But these ones also aren't cheap. These are not the cheapest blasters you'll find out there. For a long time, these were actually one of the most expensive standard blasters you could buy. I think that has just been taken by a couple of the random shops, but for a long time, this was. And there are reasons for it. However, it's up to you whether or not you feel comfortable spending that much money on what is essentially still just a really high quality toy. I think it would be worthwhile. However, I have also heard every now and then some of them having issues internally with some of the smaller gears breaking. So be mindful of that. There may be the possibility that that could happen. At the end of the day, that could happen to any of these blasters, but I have heard of that from someone who's had to fix a few of them. So it hasn't been massive, like it's only been a couple of ones I've heard here and there, so it could just be sporadic, like most of them, but just I do need to mention that. So, however, if you do buy it, I think you'll be quite happy with it. The other thing is that the tracer mags for the glow gels, which are also made by these guys, is made to fit this blaster. So if you're wanting to run a glow mag, it's only really going to work in this blaster without serious modification. So just make note of that. The benefit of that obviously is you don't necessarily need a tracer unit should you be using the glow gels for any reason. But again, personal preference is king. Definitely could use a hop up like any of them. I think a simple adjustable hop up on this would go wonderfully. I don't think you need an 11 volt battery. In fact, a few times there it was actually skipping with this battery and whatnot, and even after doing the empty mag test, I could start feeling the heat coming out of this motor. Now, it wasn't serious, but if you were constantly going around absolutely hammering full auto with this thing, I could see that potentially causing an issue with maybe solder connections, that sort of thing. So my recommendation is stick with a 7.4 volt unless you're going to do something to upgrade it and deal with that potential issue going forward. If you are going to modify it, then go nuts. But if you're going to keep it standard or relatively standard, I think a 7.4 volt and hop up is going to do you fine. I do recommend at least one extra magazine. This magazine seems to hold a fair bit of capacity from what I did with the mag empty test, which kind of surprised me. It's a nice surprise, don't get me wrong, but it's there. So I reckon that and one spare will see you through most games if you're not going full auto with an 11 volt battery. So there is that. Even with the even with a single shot fire, it was fairly accurate with no hop up and such attached. So I don't mind it. That's at 10-20 meters in my little backyard range. So yeah, all in all, pretty good. You'd be happy if you bought this. I don't have an issue recommending this to you by any stretch. If you're a fan of the HK design, go for it. There's no reason not to. Just be mindful it is a little bit more expensive, and there are reasons for that, as you can see, but I think it is worthwhile spending the money on it. So yeah, that's about all I've got for this review. Next review I'm hoping to do will be the Lehui AUG, the Steyr, which hopefully will be in the next week or so. I'll see how I go on that. I'm also hoping to get some more gameplay videos up. I'm actually heading out tomorrow morning to our local field in Gladstone to go and get some gameplay footage and have a bit of a play around, because I wouldn't mind making another gameplay video. They're always a bit more fun, but you know, it has to be exciting, otherwise it's not really that exciting to look at. So hopefully I'll be doing that soon. I do also have a couple of packs of the Ozgel Armatech gels, and I am keen to give them a go and see how they go. So I'll definitely be using them in the gameplay tomorrow, so that'll probably make its way into the video somewhere. However, I'll probably also do a specific video around them, just like I did with the LDT heavy gels. Now, I'm not going to go nuts with the testing, sizing and all that, because, well, Guido does that better than I ever will. So I'm quite happy for you to just go look at his video on that. I'm going to take them out with a couple of blasters and see how they perform in the field, because I'm more interested in seeing them in practice. So let's see how they go. Everything so far is looking interesting. It's going to look like it might be similar to the LDT gels, maybe a little bit better, but it's going to depend. And I think by the looks of things, it's going to be better off in heavily modified blasters than standard ones, but you never know. So I'm going to find that out. So stay tuned for that. If you want to support the channel, such as these legends up here, you can find links to my PayPal and also buy me a coffee down below. Any assistance is go straight to the channel of making these videos, and I 100% thank you for that, and to those guys there. I'll also be doing a channel chat video soon. I'll post up about that, so if you have any questions you want to ask, you can ask me directly there and I'll answer it in the video as best I can. Moreover than that, if you like the video, feel free to give it a like, drop a comment down below, let me know what you think of this blaster and if you're interested in buying it or if you've got any lingering concerns about it. But I can tell you right now that it would be worthwhile buying if you haven't already. And other than that, subscribe. I'll catch us next time. I really do need to buy one of these.
Suit is on point. Won't cause a scene or stir up no clash on second thought. Then it's by fourth. She's on the job, but she's staying.